what I just don't get is, in my mind, Mr. Mashiri, when you look, we get a team sheet when you sit. Do you ever sit in directors' boxes, boys?
Oh, all the time.
Well, thank you very much indeed.
Yeah,
and of course, and then a nice lady brings you around a team sheet. Look at the team sheet; it's been laid out. In my view, Mr. Mashiri's favourite statistic and fact on that team sheet is the name of the head coach of Everton at the bottom. And he looks at it and glows with pride because the head coach has got a Portuguese name because he's Portuguese and he's a young fella and he looks a bit like Jose Mourinho. And this means Everton have suddenly become a grown-up club because we've got this great continental manager. What I don't understand is, where were the qualifications that Marco Silva had chalked up before he got to Everton? We're not a great big club anymore like we used to be, but we have aspirations to be that great big club again. We have the money now to do it, so we should start employing people who are able to do the job, not some fantasy about some great continental coach who'll turn it round, because he hasn't. We were better off when we had less money than we've got now, because in those days, the chairman, Mr. Kenwright, and our manager of 11 years, Davy Moyes, ran such a tight ship between them on how they spent that money, and we remained stable throughout those years.
It was a different time, Mike.
I know the different times.
You're competing on
hang
different
on.
level.
For years, Everton fans have been saying, bring in a new investor, bring us the money. So the new investors come in, we brought you the money, and now what happens? When you bring in a new investor who's as powerful in business as Mr. Mashiri, about half a dozen advisors arrive. And when half a dozen advisors arrive, you've got half a dozen different points of view on how to spend that money, who you should be bringing to the club. I mean, Marcel Brands makes me chuckle. He's a director of football, OK? And yet he's sitting there stroking his chin thinking, now, I wonder what I should do with Marco. I would wonder what you should do with yourself, Mr. Brands, to be honest, because I don't think you've been any more successful than Marco Silva. In many ways, Marco Silva has been the victim of having to deal with players that have been bought from 6 different directions. Managers who've been there, and we've had 4 now in the last 4 years, will tell you afterwards it was such a confusing transfer policy, they had to try and make do. You remember when we bought 3 number 10s in the same transfer season? And including Wayne Rooney and all that. And so I have some sympathy for Mr. Silva, but he's a very lucky boy to have got the job at Everton on such limited qualifications. He'll take a whole load of dosh away with him. He can go away, dust himself down, get a bit older and maybe come back again. But Everton have been decimated by his appointment.